Hi, my name is Tanya.
I watched my baby sister cry herself to sleep with bruises on her back, and that's when I knew we had to run. It still doesn't feel real. Some nights, I wake up in a cold sweat, expecting to hear the creak of the stairs or our father's voice booming through the hallway. But it's quiet now, and every time I remember that silence, I feel that same sick mix of relief and guilt. We escaped, but not before I saw the truth about my parents, about the house we called home. People always assumed we were normal, polite, well-dressed. Dad wore a button-down even to mow the lawn. Mom baked for the church and volunteered at school functions. We smiled on cue, got good grades, never made a scene. Behind closed doors, we lived under a regime. Our love was currency, something to be earned and weaponized. Loyalty meant snitching. Affection meant obedience. And punishment? That was doled out like clockwork, delivered with cold precision and wrapped in pretty little justifications. I was the middle child. Liam was the oldest. Then the twins, Riley and Tessa. From the outside, we were tight-knit. Inside, we were spies in our own home, turned against each other by a game we didn't realize we were playing until it was too late. I remember the first time I got hit for telling the truth. I was 6. Liam had broken a vase playing soccer in the living room. I tried to cover for him. Said I knocked it over by accident. I thought I was protecting him. That night, I got the belt. 3 lashes. No dinner. No explanation. Next morning, Liam got pancakes. A new video game. A proud slap on the back. Always tell the truth, Dad said with a smile. And you'll be rewarded. That was the moment I learned the rules didn't apply equally. From then on, I stayed quiet. I watched Liam flourish under their praise. He told on everyone. Me, the twins, the dog, didn't matter. And every time he did, he got something. Ice cream. Movie nights. A new phone. Tessa followed in his footsteps. She was sharper, sneakier, made up lies just to earn favor. She framed Riley for stealing once. Riley cried for hours. I tried to defend her and got grounded for a week. By the time I turned 16, I had taken more hits than I could count. But I never, not once, turned on Riley. She was the only one who saw me. When things got bad, when the shouting started or the sound of a belt sliding through loops echoed down the hall, she'd sneak into my room and curl up beside me. Small, shaking, her fingers tangled in the hem of my shirt like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. I swore I'd never let them hurt her. But promises are hard to keep when fear runs the house. I left for college at 18. Thought I was free. Thought I could breathe again. I was wrong. Because 6 months later, I got a call. No words. Just a whisper. Please help me. It was Riley. And in her voice, I heard the sound of someone breaking. I dropped everything. Borrowed a friend's car. Drove 8 hours straight. When I found her, she looked smaller. Thinner. Eyes haunted. She didn't speak much that night. Just climbed into my passenger seat with a single backpack and a fresh bruise blooming across her cheek. I didn't ask who did it. I already knew. We drove in silence. I kept checking the rear view, expecting to see headlights tailing us. We made it back to campus before sunrise. I snuck her into my dorm, hid her under a blanket while my roommate Ethan distracted the RA. That first week, she barely ate, barely moved. She flinched at every knock, every ringtone, every creak of the floor. Then she showed me the marks, and something inside me snapped. But it wasn't rage. It was resolve. They weren't getting her back. I didn't care what it cost. Because love, real love, it protects. It sacrifices. It doesn't hurt and call it discipline. It doesn't demand silence in exchange for safety. I thought we could disappear. But my family? They don't let go that easy. And the night Liam showed up on campus looking for her, I realized the real fight hadn't even begun. You never realize how loud the world is until you're hiding from it. For the first few days, Riley barely spoke. She'd sit curled up in the corner of my dorm, hoodie pulled over her head, flinching at every knock. The girl who used to sing along to every stupid commercial jingle now couldn't even meet my eyes. I tried to keep things normal, or at least pretend. We watched old cartoons on mute, shared ramen. I'd talk just to fill the silence. Tell her dumb stories about my professors or Ethan's tragic dating life. She never laughed. Not once. The only time I saw a flicker of the old Riley was the night I walked in with a box of donuts. Her favorite, the kind with the ridiculous rainbow sprinkles. She didn't smile, but she took one. Ate it slow, like she hadn't tasted food in weeks. And that's when I knew she was starting to trust the silence. But peace doesn't last long when you're being hunted. It started with the calls. Blocked numbers. Voicemails that went from sweet to sharp in seconds. Mom's voice, syrupy with fake concern. "Riley, honey, we miss you. Just tell us where you are, okay?" Then Dad's voice. "If you think this little stunt's going to end well, you're dead wrong." After that came Liam. He texted me directly. One word. Traitor. I blocked him. Didn't matter. They found me at work next. I was mid-shift at the campus cafe, foaming milk for some girl's oat latte, when I looked up and saw him. Liam. My big brother. Same smug smirk, same dead eyes. He didn't even try to hide it. He waited until I stepped outside for a break. "Nice hiding spot," he said. "You always were predictable." I told him to leave. He didn't flinch. "You think she's better off with you? Broke college kid playing knight in shining armor?" I didn't answer. Just stared at him, fists clenched. He leaned in, voice low. "You're making this worse for her. They're gonna say you kidnapped her. You want to go to jail over a brat who doesn't even appreciate you?" That was his mistake. He thought fear still worked on me. I took a step closer. Close enough to smell the cologne Dad always wore. "She's never going back," I said. "So tell them to stop wasting their time." He laughed, shook his head. "You always were the weak one." Then he walked off like he hadn't just threatened to destroy my life. I went straight home, barred the door, checked the windows. Riley saw my face and knew. "They found us, didn't they?" she whispered. I nodded. She didn't cry. She just asked, "What do we do now?" And for the first time, I had no idea, because it wasn't just about keeping her hidden anymore. It was about proving who we were, before they rewrote the story and turned us into villains. I stayed up all night researching. Laws. Emancipation. Abuse documentation. I started compiling everything. Her bruises, voice recordings, old texts. I even reached out to a crisis advocate I found online. We were building a case. A lifeline. But while I was planning our next move, the past walked through our door. It was Tessa, Riley's twin. She stood in the hallway like a ghost, soaking wet from the rain, eyes rimmed in red. "I didn't tell them," she whispered. "I swear." Riley froze. Didn't say a word. I stepped between them. "You shouldn't be here." "I had to come," she said, her voice breaking. "You don't know what they're planning." My pulse spiked. "What are you talking about?" Tessa looked at Riley, then me. "They're filing a police report tomorrow. They're saying you kidnapped her." Riley's knees gave out. And just like that, the countdown began. I always thought the worst thing that could happen was getting hit. Turns out, it's worse when no one believes you were hit at all. Tessa's words echoed in my head as I helped Riley onto the couch. Her face was pale, her hands shaking. "Kidnapping?" she whispered. "They're really saying that?" Tessa nodded, soaked hoodie dripping onto the floor. "They've already talked to someone. Said you manipulated her. Brainwashed her." I couldn't breathe for a second, because I knew how fast lies spread, especially when they come from people who wear nice shoes and smile for church photos. I looked at Tessa. "Why are you warning us now?" Her eyes welled. "Because I should have stopped them sooner." She reached into her backpack and handed me something. A flash drive. "They made me record Riley. Asked me to get her to say you forced her to leave. I didn't do it. But I got something else. Listen." I didn't ask questions. Just grabbed my laptop and plugged it in. The file was short. Maybe 3 minutes. It started with our dad's voice. Cold. Flat. "If this gets out, we'll all be ruined. That little brat doesn't know how good she had it. You tell the cops her brother's unstable. That she was scared of him. Then Mom. Her tone sharp, almost bored. Make sure she cries. They eat that stuff up." My stomach turned. Riley looked like she might throw up. Tessa wiped her eyes. "I didn't know it was this bad. I thought maybe you were exaggerating. But hearing them like that." She trailed off. I believed her. Mostly. But Riley didn't speak. She just stood, walked into the bathroom, and shut the door. I let her have the space. She needed it. Tessa sat on the floor, knees pulled to her chest. I thought if I just played along, I'd be safe. That if I followed the rules. "Yeah," I said quietly. "I used to think that too." She looked up. "What do you do now?" I didn't answer right away, because I didn't know. The next morning, I sent the audio to the legal aid clinic I'd contacted. Told them everything. Riley's bruises, the threats, the manipulation. I didn't know if it'd be enough, but it was a start. Then I called in every favor I had. My psych professor, Ethan's mom, who worked with at-risk teens, a friend of a friend whose sister was a paralegal. We built a timeline, gathered photos, medical notes Riley still had from an ER visit 2 years ago, the one where she fell down the stairs. We were building armor. But while we planned, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it ring. Then came a text. "We see you." Attached was a photo. Me and Riley, taken from across the street. Outside our dorm. I ran to the window, heart in my throat. Nothing. No car. No figure. Just shadows and a storm rolling in. I bolted the door. Drew the blinds. Riley didn't need to see it. She already knew. "They're getting desperate," she said, her voice low. I nodded. Desperate people make mistakes. But the truth? I was scared. Because even with evidence, even with help, they had power, reputation, resources, a story they were already feeding to anyone who'd listen. And the moment that police report was filed, everything would change. I sat on the floor that night with my back against the door, baseball bat across my lap. My phone buzzed every 10 minutes. New numbers, new threats. Then one call. A name I recognized. Caleb, my older cousin, one of the few people who'd ever stood up to my dad. I answered. "Is she with you?" he asked. I didn't reply. "Good," he said. "Keep her close." Because they just showed up at my house, looking for her. I gripped the bat tighter. Caleb sighed. "They're not going to stop, man. Not until they bury you. Or bring her back." Then his voice lowered. "You need to disappear." I swallowed hard. And asked the question I never thought I'd ask out loud. How far are you willing to go to protect someone? Because I had a feeling. My answer was about to be tested. When you're on the run, the world turns into a map of exits. Every hallway, every alley, every stairwell, all you see are the ways out. And that night, every door felt like it could burst open at any second. After Caleb's call, I knew staying put was no longer an option. If they were showing up at relatives' houses, if they were sending photos, watching us, we had to move. Now, Riley didn't ask questions when I shook her awake. She just looked at me, eyes wide, and said, "Where?" I didn't know yet, but I lied. Somewhere safe. Tessa insisted on coming. I didn't love the idea, but she had the flash drive, and something told me she needed to see this through, not for Riley, but for herself. Ethan helped us slip out the back entrance of the dorms. Gave me a duffel bag with some snacks, a burner phone, and cash he scraped together from tips. "Go out the back lot. There's a rental car parked under the maple tree. It's under your name. The keys are in the glove box." I stared at him. "You rented me a car?" He shrugged. "My mom's a social worker. I've seen what these situations look like when they go bad. Just don't crash it." For the first time in days, I almost smiled. We slipped out into the night, the three of us moving fast and quiet. Riley in the middle, head down. Tessa scanning the shadows. I had one hand on the bat stuffed in my bag, just in case. When we reached the car, I paused. Checked under the tires. Around the lot. In the back seat. Clear. We drove. For hours. No music. Just the hum of tires and the low thud of my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Riley slept. Tessa dozed off eventually. But I stayed wired, eyes locked on every headlight behind us. We reached the edge of the next state just before sunrise. An old friend of Caleb's, someone who owed him a favor, had agreed to let us crash at his cabin. Secluded. Quiet. No cell service. Perfect. For 2 days, it felt like a weird dream. We cooked noodles over a portable stove. Played cards by candlelight. I taught Riley how to light a fire with flint. And for a moment, it felt almost normal. She smiled once. A real one. She and Tessa even giggled over something dumb. I didn't ask what. I didn't want to break the spell. But peace never lasts long when the truth is chasing you. It found us through the news. Caleb drove up on the 3rd day with a newspaper. He slammed it on the table. Front page. Local teen feared kidnapped by estranged brother. Riley's school photo. My full name. A quote from our mother about how I'd always struggled emotionally. Below that, an open letter from my father, calling me unstable, accusing me of taking Riley against her will, saying I needed professional help. I felt the blood drain from my face. "This is war," Caleb said. "They're turning the world against you, and the cops are buying it." I stared at Riley. She was pale again. Like she'd been yanked back into the darkness she barely escaped. "I'll tell the truth," she said. "We'll go to the police. Show them the bruises, the recordings. They'll believe us." But I wasn't so sure. Because people believe what they want to believe. And my parents? They knew exactly how to tell a story. I looked at Tessa. You still have that flash drive? She pulled it from her pocket. Nodded. Good, I said. Then it's time we tell our story first. We drove to the nearest library with internet access. Used the burner phone to create new accounts. Uploaded everything. The audio. The photos. A video of Riley speaking directly to the camera. This is my face. My name. My truth. Her voice didn't shake. I wasn't kidnapped. I ran. Because I was being hurt. And the man you're calling a criminal? He saved me. It went live at 4:16 p.m. By 4:42, it had 3,000 views. By 6 o'clock, over 20,000. And by nightfall, the hashtags had started trending. Hashtag believe Riley. Hashtag my brother saved me. Hashtag stop family abuse. The silence broke. People started asking questions. Reporters reached out. Advocates. Survivors. But with the attention came something else. Danger. Because once the truth starts to spread, liars get loud. And just after midnight, the cabin windows lit up red and blue. I'd always imagined the police as protectors, not invaders with flashlights and suspicion in their eyes. They knocked once. Then they pounded. Open up. Police. Caleb and I locked eyes. Tessa froze. Riley's hands started shaking so hard, she dropped the cup she was holding. The sound of shattering glass rang through the cabin like a gunshot. I motioned for her to stay behind me, stepped toward the door with my hands raised. This is private property, Caleb warned. You got a warrant? We've got a report. One officer barked back. Underage girl. Abduction. Possible danger. Riley stepped forward before I could stop her. She threw open the door. Her voice cracked, but she didn't hesitate. I'm Riley, the girl you're looking for. That stopped them cold. I'm not kidnapped. I'm not missing. I'm right here. And I have proof. She held up a printout of the bruises. Photos. The statement she'd written. And the flash drive, the one with our parents' voices on it. The officers glanced at each other. One stepped inside cautiously, asked to sit down and talk. Riley nodded. The other stayed by the door, hand resting on his holster the whole time, watching me like I might explode. I didn't blame him. They'd been told I was dangerous, unstable, a manipulator. It took everything in me to stay calm, to keep my voice even. Riley did most of the talking. She told them about the bruises, the rules, the love you earned by betraying your siblings. She told them about the belt, about the silence, and about the night she finally called me. I sat there, barely breathing, while she unraveled the whole damn truth. Then she said the words that landed hardest. My brother didn't take me. He's the reason I'm still alive. It was quiet for a long time. Then the officer nodded slowly, asked to take copies of everything. He left a card, said the department had to verify it all, that they'd be in touch. But as they pulled away, I saw the doubt in his eyes. Even with all that evidence, they still weren't sure. And I knew why. Because my parents were masters of the mask. They didn't beat us in public. They didn't scream when neighbors could hear. They baked cookies and hosted barbecues and smiled in family photos like their love was pure. But now, that mask was cracking. Because the internet wasn't letting this go. Our story kept spreading. The video hit 100,000 views. Then 500,000. People were calling it the Riley Files. Others dubbed me the brother bodyguard. Some doubted us, said we were overreacting. But more believed. People started sharing their own stories of being punished for speaking up, of siblings turned spies, of parents who loved with conditions and raised with fear. And then, the first real breakthrough. An old teacher of Riley's, Miss Dennison, posted her own account. She wrote about seeing bruises, about reporting it once and getting brushed off, about how our mother explained everything away with such charm and ease. She apologized for not pushing harder. Then came another, a neighbor, then a nurse. Piece by piece, the picture sharpened. And with every new voice, their power shrank. But it wasn't over. Not even close. Because just when I started to believe maybe, just maybe, we were winning, the screen lit up. Blocked number. I hesitated. Then I answered. And for a moment, there was only breathing on the other end. Then, Mom's voice. Congratulations, she said softly. You've embarrassed us on a global scale. I didn't respond. You always had a flair for drama. Still, I said nothing. Then her voice hardened. But if you think this ends with a few viral videos and sad little stories, you're wrong. You've made enemies, sweetheart. Powerful ones. She paused. And then came the final blow. You should have stayed the forgotten one. I hung up, not because I was afraid, but because I wasn't. And that terrified her more than anything. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't just protecting Riley. I was going to burn down the entire lie they built. And I just lit the match. You'd think after going viral, things would get easier. They didn't. They just got louder. For every person who believed Riley, there was another calling her a liar, a manipulator, a troubled teen brainwashed by her mentally unstable brother. That last one came straight from a blog post by my own aunt. She posted family photos like we were some glossy Christmas card, wrote paragraphs about how devastated the family was, how Riley was clearly suffering a mental health episode, how I had always been a little off. It went semi-viral, shared by parenting groups and Facebook moms who didn't know us, didn't care, but still had plenty to say. The phrase false memories got thrown around like it was a cure-all for guilt. And through it all, my parents said nothing publicly. They didn't have to. They had their army doing it for them. Meanwhile, back at the cabin, we were living minute to minute. Tessa stayed quiet most days. She paced, read articles on her phone. I'd catch her crying sometimes, silently, quickly wiping her face the second she noticed me looking. Riley started having nightmares again. Woke up gasping, drenched in sweat, her fingers clawing at her own skin like she was still back there, in that house. I didn't sleep much. Not because I couldn't, but because I didn't want to. Because every time I closed my eyes, I heard our mom's voice again. You should have stayed the forgotten one. That line lived under my skin. But the worst part? I understood what she meant. I'd spent most of my life being invisible. The background sibling. The quiet one. The easy one. The one who never asked for much, and never got much in return. I didn't even have baby photos. Riley once joked that I just appeared at age 6. And maybe she was right. Because when you grow up in a house that rewards betrayal, silence becomes your only defense. Until the day someone hurts your sister. And then silence turns into fire. We stayed low for another week. Lawyers started reaching out. Real ones, not YouTube personalities chasing clout. A family law firm offered to represent Riley pro bono. Said her case could set a precedent. That terrified me. Because cases like this, they don't end with justice. They end with exhaustion. And I didn't want Riley dragged through months of courtrooms and cross-examinations, forced to relive every bruise, every scream. Every night, she cried herself to sleep. But Riley? She was done being quiet. I don't care how long it takes, she said one night, sitting by the fire. They don't get to win just because they're louder. Her voice cracked, but her eyes didn't blink. I want them to face what they did. That's when I knew. I wasn't leading this anymore. She was. She wasn't the broken kid I found shaking in my dorm room. She was steel, and she was ready. The lawyer helped file a protective order first. Then formal charges, abuse, emotional manipulation, unlawful surveillance. That last one came from cameras hidden in the vents. Ones Riley had discovered months before she left. We uploaded footage. One clip showed my father yelling, inches from Riley's face, while she stood perfectly still, like a statue trained not to flinch. Another showed my mom reading her diary out loud in the kitchen, laughing about it. It was undeniable. Too polished to fake. Too real to ignore. News outlets picked it up. The story wasn't just teen runs away. It was abuse. Documented. Systemic. Cult-like in its control. And then, one final twist. Caleb found something. Old court records sealed under our family name. Turns out, we weren't the first. In 1997, a foster child filed a complaint against our parents. Claimed psychological manipulation, physical punishment, starvation. Case was dismissed. Child relocated. But Caleb found her. She was 36 now, and she had receipts, photos, letters, a journal with our dad's handwriting scrawled across the margins. Trust must be earned. Pain builds character. She offered to testify, said she'd been waiting 20 years for someone else to speak up. And suddenly, we weren't alone anymore. Riley wasn't just a runaway. She was the match that lit the truth, and the fire was spreading. But my parents? They still had one card left to play. Because just before the next hearing, Riley got a letter in the mail. No stamp, no return address. Just 4 words, written in block print. We still have Tessa. We stared at that letter like it was a live grenade. We still have Tessa. 4 words. No context. No signature. But the message was crystal clear. And it hit Riley like a punch to the chest. She grabbed her phone, fingers trembling. She's in the cabin, right? She didn't leave. She wouldn't just. I was already on my feet, sprinting down the hallway. Tessa. No answer. I tore open the door to the guest room. Empty bed. No bag. No charger. No note. Gone. Riley stumbled in behind me, wide-eyed and breathless. She saw the empty space and sank to the floor. No. No, no, no. I knelt beside her, trying to stay calm even as my heart kicked against my ribs like a warning bell. She wouldn't go back, I said, more to myself than anyone else. Not after everything she said. Not after helping us. But doubt crept in. Tessa had been quiet the past few days. Distant. Like something was gnawing at her from the inside. Maybe it was guilt. Or shame. Maybe it was something worse. I opened her browser history on the cabin laptop. She'd been searching terms like legal consequences for minors lying to police and how to withdraw a statement. My stomach dropped. Was she regretting everything? Or had someone gotten to her? Riley's voice was hollow. They said they still have her. Not that she came back. Not that she left. Have. We both knew what that meant. This wasn't a choice. It was a message. A hostage. And now the question wasn't just where Tessa was. It was what they were willing to do to her. Caleb called every hour. He offered to pull security footage, to check in with friends, even drive to our parents' house himself. They won't hurt her, he said at one point. Not while this much heat's on them. But even he didn't sound convinced. Because control wasn't just a habit for them. It was their identity. And Tessa flipping sides? Helping us? That was betrayal. And betrayal, in our family, always came with consequences. Riley sat in the same chair for hours, eyes glued to the door, like Tessa might walk through at any moment. But midnight came. Then 2 a.m. Then 5. Nothing. I checked the locks again. Refreshed the news. Reread the letter until the words blurred into each other. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Just one photo. Tessa, sitting on a bench. Blank-faced. Pale. Silent. In the background, I saw it. The front porch of our childhood home. Still painted that sickly yellow. Same chipped railing. Same dead flower beds. It was like staring at a ghost. There was no caption. No threat. Just proof of life. And power. Riley stood behind me, fists clenched. They're using her, she said quietly. They're gonna dangle her until I give up. I didn't argue. Because she was right. And that meant we had two options. Go to the police again. Risk them brushing it off as a misunderstanding between siblings. Or handle it ourselves. I looked at Caleb. He was dead silent. Then he pulled something from his coat pocket. An old house key. Still fits, he said. My hands were shaking when I took it. This wasn't just some rescue mission. This was walking straight into the heart of everything we ran from. And for the first time since this all began, I wasn't sure we'd walk back out. But I looked at Riley. At the bruise that had never fully faded from her jaw. At the fire in her eyes. And I knew one thing. We weren't leaving Tessa behind. Not this time. Because if they wanted a war, they were about to get one. I hadn't seen that house in 2 years. And I could have gone the rest of my life without seeing it again. But there it was, just past the cracked driveway and overgrown lawn. Same peeling shutters. Same porch light that never quite turned off. Same sickness in my gut that used to show up every time I stepped inside. Only this time, I wasn't a kid. I wasn't coming home. I was coming for my sister. Caleb parked down the block. We left the lights off, windows cracked. Riley sat in the back seat, hoodie pulled low, fists clenched in her lap, like she could hold the whole plan together with sheer will. You sure about this? Caleb asked for the 4th time. I didn't answer. We both knew it didn't matter. Because no cop was going to walk through that door in time. Not before they twisted Tessa into something unrecognizable again. Or worse. It had always been their game. Isolate, manipulate, erase. And this time, the rules were ours. The plan was simple. Caleb would knock. Distract whoever answered. I'd slip around the back, use the key, get Tessa, and get out. No speeches. No arguments. Just in and gone. At least, that was the plan. At 9:03 p.m., we moved. I watched Caleb walk up the path like it was nothing. Knocked twice. Waited. Door opened. I couldn't see who answered, but I could hear the fake cheer. Caleb. What a surprise. I slipped around the side, heart thudding, hands slick with sweat. The back door stuck a little, just like it always had. I eased it open and stepped inside. And just like that, I was back. Same hallway. Same rug with the bloodstain hidden under the edge. Same air that felt too still, too perfect. I moved fast. Up the stairs. Past the room I used to sleep in. The door was still cracked. I didn't look. Tessa's room was at the end of the hall. I knocked once. Then pushed. She was sitting on the bed. No restraints. No yelling. Just quiet. Too quiet. Tessa, I whispered. She didn't move. Tess. She looked up slowly. Her face was blank. Hollow. Like she was already gone. I dropped to my knees in front of her. Hey, I'm here. We're going now, okay? She blinked. Then whispered, you shouldn't have come. Before I could respond, I heard it. The door behind me. Closing. Then footsteps. And then their voices. Did you really think it'd be that easy? Mom. Calm. Collected. Like this was just another dinner discussion. Dad stepped beside her. His smile never reached his eyes. You brought her back into our home, he said. And you call us unstable? I stood, placing myself between them and Tessa. You're not touching her. Mom laughed, soft and cruel. You've always had a savior complex, sweetheart. It's adorable. Misguided, but adorable. Tessa was still sitting, frozen, not blinking. You drugged her, I said. It wasn't a question. Dad shrugged. Just something to help her calm down. She was hysterical. Cried all night. You'd be amazed what a little fear can do. I saw red. I stepped forward, fists clenched, ready to burn it all down. But then Tessa's voice cut through the fog. No. One word, barely above a whisper. But it was enough. She stood. Wobbled. But stood. I'm done being afraid of you. Mom's smile faltered. Just a crack. Then Tessa looked at me. I'm ready. I reached for her hand. And then the front door slammed open downstairs. Boots. Shouting. Police. For a split second, I thought, how? Then I remembered. Riley. She must have called the second we stepped inside. A flashlight beam cut through the hallway. Hands up. Step away from the boy. Everything blurred. Cops yelling. My dad screaming. My mom trying to explain, her voice syrupy sweet and falling apart. Tessa gripped my hand tighter than ever. And we walked out together. Into the floodlights. Into the truth. Into something that finally felt like freedom. They say freedom feels like flying. That's a lie. It felt like sitting on a hard bench in a cold police station at 2 a.m., still shaking, still waiting, still wondering if any of this would actually stick. Tessa sat beside me, her head on my shoulder, eyes half closed. Her hand hadn't let go of mine since we left the house. Riley was in the next room, giving her statement. Again, she didn't flinch this time, didn't hesitate. She laid it all out, the manipulation, the beatings, the way they turned siblings into soldiers and love into leverage. And now? Now it was out of our hands. Caleb paced by the vending machine, arms crossed, jaw tight. No one had said the words yet. Charges, arrest, protective custody, but we could feel it coming. Like thunder building just beneath the clouds. 2 officers stepped into the waiting area. One looked exhausted. The other, too calm. Good news. The calm one said, eyes flicking between us. Your parents are in custody. Your sister's statements, the video, the witness testimony, it's enough to hold them. It didn't feel real. I expected to cry, or cheer, or feel some kind of victory buzz in my veins. But all I felt was tired. Tessa exhaled, shaky. What happens now? The officer's smile was gentle, but firm. Now? You rest. You recover. And then you rebuild. We were placed under emergency protection orders. Temporary housing. Therapy sessions. Court prep. A social worker named Karen. Tough. Kind eyes. No BS. Took us under her wing. Said we weren't just a case. Said we mattered. She didn't treat us like broken kids. She treated us like survivors. The media storm didn't stop. If anything, it grew. Turns out, people love a redemption arc, love a hero brother, and a brave little sister. The world couldn't get enough of it. They didn't see the sleepless nights, the panic attacks, the way Riley still jumped when someone raised their voice, the way Tessa apologized every time she asked for anything, even water. They didn't see me in therapy, breaking down because I didn't know who I was without the fight. I had no idea how to be okay. Not really. But we were trying. Together. One step at a time. Tessa started drawing again. Riley applied to a community college. I went back to work. Quietly. Just pouring coffee and clearing tables. It felt safe. For once, our lives weren't being broadcasted. We got to be normal. Until the letter came. Another one. Same handwriting. Same block print. But this time, it wasn't a threat. It was a confession. No name. But we didn't need one. The letter was from one of our old neighbors. Someone who saw things, heard things, and never spoke up. They wrote about the time they saw Riley with a split lip. About the time they heard yelling through the open windows. About how they thought, hoped, maybe they were wrong. I'm sorry, it read. I didn't know how to help. But I see you now. Attached was a donation receipt to a nonprofit for abused teens. Riley cried when she read it. Not because it fixed anything, but because someone saw her. Really saw her. It was the first of many. Other survivors started reaching out. Emails, messages, art, letters. They weren't alone anymore. And neither were we. We were building something. A voice louder than theirs. A wall between us and the past. But one night, I sat alone on the porch of our new place. A quiet little rental with creaky floors and too many light switches, and I stared out at the streetlights and whispered, "Is it really over?" Because part of me still flinched at shadows, still checked behind doors, still heard my mother's voice in the back of my mind, dripping poison. You should have stayed, the forgotten one. But then I heard footsteps. Riley, barefoot, wrapped in a blanket. She sat beside me, handed me a mug of tea, and said 4 words I never thought I'd hear. "I'm proud of you." I didn't respond. Didn't have to. Because I knew then it wasn't over. But it was different now. This wasn't survival anymore. This was becoming. And we were just getting started. I used to think healing was a destination. Some place you arrive, bags unpacked, trauma folded neatly in drawers, pain turned into poetry. But healing isn't a place. It's a choice. A messy, terrifying, daily choice. Some mornings, Riley still wakes up in a panic, breathing fast, scanning the room like it might vanish. Sometimes Tessa flinches when someone touches her shoulder unexpectedly. And me? There are nights I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if any of it was real. If maybe I dreamed the whole thing. But then I look at my sisters, laughing in the kitchen, arguing over who used the last of the almond milk. I hear Riley blasting music way too early on a Sunday. I see Tessa curled up on the couch, sketchbook in her lap, brow furrowed in concentration. And I know, this is real. This is ours. The trial took months. They denied everything at first. Said we were lying. That it was all an elaborate scheme for attention. That we were disturbed. But the evidence didn't lie. The recordings. The witnesses. The testimony from that foster girl they tried to erase. One by one, their lies crumbled. When the verdict came down, guilty on multiple counts, I didn't cheer. Neither did Riley. Tessa cried. But they weren't tears of grief. They were the kind of tears you cry when someone finally sees you and believes you. That night, we lit a candle on the porch. No big celebration. No speeches. Just a soft glow in the dark. A reminder of everything we survived. The world moved on. New stories replaced ours. New hashtags. New outrage. But for us, life was just beginning. Riley started volunteering, helping other teens navigate the system. Tessa got a scholarship to study art therapy. And me? I started writing. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted truth. Real truth. The kind that wraps around you like a blanket when the world's too loud. The kind that says, you're not broken. You're becoming. I wrote about fear and love and how sometimes they live in the same house. About how survival looks different for everyone. About how family isn't blood. It's who stays when everything else falls apart. We moved to a different town. Quiet. Small. Unremarkable. Perfect. People didn't know our names there. Didn't ask questions. They just smiled and waved. And we smiled back. For the first time. Not because we were told to, but because we wanted to. Sometimes I still think about that house. About the yellow porch and the belt behind the closet door. About the boy I used to be. The one who stayed quiet, followed the rules, disappeared into himself so no one would see the cracks. He didn't make it out. I did. And I brought my sisters with me. We're not who we were. We're louder now. Braver. Messier. And free. So no, healing isn't a place. It's 1,000 little choices. To stay. To speak. To love without conditions. And to keep walking. Even when your legs shake. Even when the night is long. Because somewhere out there, there's a kid still crying in the dark. And maybe, just maybe, our story will help them find the light.